Hello, it is I, Misfit Paradise Waferton, and welcome to another episode of Anitube Digest, the show where we celebrate the most Anitube of Anitube known to man, according to me. This week, we are highlighting videos from August 11th to August 24, 2024. That's right, it's a 2-week digest, baby! Mostly because Mother Nature called and stole my lunch money for a week, so if you know, you know. I might be doing this occasionally in general when the schedule is tight, but I'm going to play it by ear because I'm a professional, totally a professional. Anyway, the future me will now be going over the stuff of the Anitube. I'm just going to keep floating down here and we'll be here when you're ready to come back. Go on. Don't make it weird now, I don't have all day.
For the first video on docket, I wanted to talk about content I felt was the most, for me, out of the way. As I felt that Rantz's, the worst girl boss on Webtoon, The Princess's Jewels, is so niche that it wouldn't appeal to most people outside of the trashy Jose manga enjoyers, with a lot of sauce added on. But lucky for Rantz, I am the prime demographic for this type of slop, and I gotta say I don't blame Rantz's opinions at all. The main character isn't the most virtuous character out there, hounding on men like it's fucking happy hour at Sonic's. However, I found that portrayal of the character not that big a deal, as I was looking for something trashy and power fantasy-like. Oh, I do get tired of the double standard that female leads in reverse harems need to either be holier than thou in their actions, have no character flaws that would make them morally questionable, or even human besides the working too hard or not trusting people quirk. But let's be honest, there's nothing morally upright about a harem with multiple people thirsting so hard. I, for one, like the queen's ambition for wanting the throne and flaunting that she's right for the job. I saw her thirsting as both trashy to enjoy, as she boasts her bisexuality, go by pride, and a character flaw that gets in the way of what's really important in the moment. And that only works because the story puts a man in opposition to her style. The men in question, while pretty, do put into question how she wants to balance her personal desires and ambition for power. I agree with Rantz that in relation to the men, she is a hypocrite with pretty privilege. Her fiance, who we all know is gonna turn out evil later on, was trying to better himself legit after the party where, his fit got slammed really hard, man. Oh, but wait, it doesn't matter that there's genuine misguidance on how he looks and acts, because he's going to be the villain anyway. Who cares if he's fat early on? Ha, 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 ha. It makes her goo-goo eyes upon his glow up all the more clear about where her real priorities are, if you know what I'm saying. But no, I do see the argument for her hypocrisy. She is a hypocrite throughout the entire series, after all. If a non-main character does something she's done, then all of a sudden it's bad. But at least most of the guys are consenting to these actions as much as she is, right? Right? I'm turning this section into a rant about a manga barely anybody read. And you know what? I don't care, baby! Justice for Jade! Jade is the only reason this story's dynamic works, as he's the only one with a respectable opinion against hers. Now, I believe, as a reader, it is sometimes good, even in junk food media, to have some opposition. Otherwise, everything just melts together in a super erotic paste. Jade is a traditional man with traditional ideals. So even though the queen gets him in the harem underhandedly, she at least respects his vows to be abstinent. To a certain point. And then the essay arc happens. Yeah. That arc was hard to sit through, and I can see why people like Rantz see her as a failing girl boss. What's even sadder is that this is the video that informed me of the author's activities outside the manga, hence why the story is now unofficially cancelled. You can go watch Rantz's video yourself to see what I mean, but good golly, oh molly, why is 2024 the year of allegations? Beyond that, thank you for making the video, Rantz. You could say you got me to rant about the topic, alright? Ha! 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 I'm a comedian. It's time to say the phrase that will low-key become a theme of today's digest. Why hasn't this gotten more views? Because it's a crying shame not many of you have seen Ennori's the 3D anime that was done right. Because this video's got the whole package. I love this man's set. The editing, the music choice was freaking heat. But that doesn't mean his points or humor weren't also on the mark. Ignoring the fact that this is the third girls band cry video I have talked about recently, the editing gets me, man, in a crunchy, papery editing type of way. I love the paper aesthetic. The way he gets the characters to move reminds me of abridging. I also like how he feels humorously minimal with great comedic timing. But it wasn't all ha-has and hee-hees. For his video did have substance for anyone wanting to get into girls band cry. If I can compare it to a phenomenon, it would be like he's the hype man in your local college, trying to get all his friends into all the good anime before anyone else. He's not in the anime club proper, but he walks around like he is. So yeah, he would be that type of person. And I adore Ennori's energy for it. The video was a solid 8 minutes long that didn't overstay its welcome, and given that this is only his 12th video on his channel, I'm impressed. Very impressed with his skill. But boy, people really like girls band anime, huh? Is this the evolution of idol-like series that'll bring the second coming to idol-like things all across the land? Or will it just create its own genre entirely with its own community of people sticking it to the corporate overlords of idols and VTubers? And my ham sandwich. Ah well, maybe one day I'll find that genre that I'm obsessed with so much, I'll tell my friends about it till the cows come home. For this next entry, I want to emphasize just how much I enjoyed the talking points. And no, not just because it's about an anime I recognize, or that it brings back my nostalgia, but it does make it easier to talk about, so you'll see what I mean. Pointyboi's Yu-Gi-Oh! Villains were unhinged, and I love them, made me assumptive from the beginning of the video, but blown away by the end due to the creator's arguments. At first, I assumed this would be a piece about how amazing the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Is compared to its contemporaries, using the villains as a highlight, and to be fair, that's not so off the mark. However, despite being the 5Ds fangirl that I am, Pointyboi be cookin'. I was already in agreement on how people praise anime villains for their complexities and nuance. Heck, ask anyone in ShonenTube on who they think the best villains are in anime, and most likely they will answer with someone either morally nuanced or who flips off the power scaling charts faster than you can say tournament arc. But it doesn't have to be this way, as variety is the spice of life after all. Personally, my favorite villains in media are the goofy ones. Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb comes to mind, and in anime, I do like me those Ginyu Force guys. So I like Pointyboi's overall sentiment that a villain's quality is not solely based on some multi-layered character motivation, but how those character traits means in terms of enjoyment. Now as for Yu-Gi-Oh! In question, I think Pointy brings up that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so highly enjoyable because the villains match the convoluted nature that comes with death games based on a card game. Though I wasn't hooked on his overall message until he really started comparing the later seasons. And the points don't lie. I really did enjoy GX for what it was. I do remember moving on from the series, however, due to it getting depressing. I never thought much about how important a character's silliness factor into a show like Yu-Gi-Oh! To keep the overall vibe consistent, but yeah, beyond the card game, most characters in GX were just normal teens with normal problems, flavored in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Spice. Original Yu-Gi-Oh! On the other hand gave everyone at least some weird quirk about them, even the more normal characters. 5Ds, in comparison, was definitely a tonal whiplash when you think about it from Pointy's perspective. While I did find it funny that the same show can get so brutal 1 minute and still shout, "Card games on motorcycles," the next is still an example of the series making its own flavor of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but not the same as before. A flavor, mind you, that is still enjoyable, but I'll admit sacrifices the unhinged nature once things started wanting to be justified. I guess I love this video a lot because I agree so much with the opinion that not everything has to be a literary masterpiece, and I feel like 5Ds kind of try to do that. But I also think that's just been an insecurity people have had in the anime fandom about our medium for a long time now, even if anime is considered mainstream now. But I'm going to stop myself here before I go on a tangent about the anime fandom as a whole. So, great video, Pointyboi. You really gave me a lot to think about. Also, if at any point I said Point Crow, for whatever reason, I apologize. They're just so close to each other in naming scheme. While I wasn't subscribed to this person before I started Digest, I was hoping I would talk about a video of theirs someday. And that day came sooner than I expected. Socksensei's Another 10 Anime You Should Never Watch is a sequel to a video he's done before. This video's premise is pretty simple. Socksensei talks about 10 really bad anime and why they should be put in a fiery hellscape never to see the light of day again, according to him. That's the beauty of these types of videos. They are very opinionated and versatile, so the enjoyment of the video all really depends on how the creator conveys their feelings. I like Socksensei's classier vibe, as he uses jazz music to really buckle you up for the journey you're about to partake here. But let's all be honest with ourselves, I find these types of videos counterintuitive in an intentional sense. If Socksensei is able to convince someone that an anime on the list is dog shit, then of course people will go watch it out of curiosity. It's how the internet be. But that's the fun part. Now people will share the pain you had to go through discovering an anime of such quality, which I find to be funny in its own right. These videos are kinda like those old creepypasta chain posts with a link attached that ends up being a rickroll 5 minutes later. They breed discourse and curiosity. People might even find the anime not so bad and debate about it in the comment section. Perfect for that sweet, sweet engagement. Besides the possibility that someone will get overly mad at your opinion to the point that they write a novel about it is pretty high, this format is still a win-win in my book. Socksensei takes this format and does well to slip in a lot of fun jabs at the anime he's talking about, and I love the added personality. But joke's on him, I've watched more than half of the anime on this list, so my experience was more about appreciating the details in his witty commentary. My only question I do have for this video is the same I had for the first time he made a video like this. Is the perspective of the video from a guy who's watched all these recently and is now reporting on his findings, or someone who has always watched and known about them and is regaling his opinion because I can't tell? It's not a bad point to the video at all, I just found it to be a little introspective. Like Socksensei was the inner voice in my head telling me about these anime that I had watched so long ago, and refreshes me with the crispiest of snark. But that mindset can be just because I've watched most of the anime talked here, and I got caught up in the weird imagery. All in all, it just adds more flavor to the creator's way of making the jabs. So before someone makes an image of a sock whispering to me about how school days sucks ass in my sleep, I'm going to move on and say, I enjoyed your video, Socksensei. Wow, it's been days since I've watched this video, and I gotta commend it on its retention rate. That, or I'm oddly fixated on the topic at hand. Either way, I'll just say Masked Man really knows how to keep a topic pondering inside one's mind. But if the Masked Man's how to bring characters back to life and how to not wasn't a video worth mentioning, then it wouldn't be a part of Digest now, would it? Masked Man's video premise has great appeal in combo with that sweet thumbnail to boot, that I would be lying if I said that it was hard to get my attention with it. The contents were gripping and well thought out, and I like how he jumped from different anime to keep my interest without losing the video's focus by using relevant examples. For instance, I was a big fan of the Edo Tensei part of the video. When you really think about it, the Edo Tensei served multiple jobs towards the end of Shippuden. Not only was it a cool way to bring back characters old and new, but its implementation was well established with rules and sacrifices. Beyond that, it served as a fun sizzle reel of some of the franchise's best moments, with sprinkled in lore drops along the way. Masked Man further helps get his point across through crispy editing. The manga panels moving smoothly were pleasing to the eye, and any anime scenes were complemented well with the graphics that weren't too jarring. I mean, duh, no shit Sherlock, everyone wants to make their editing nice and tight, but I just wanted to praise Masked Man's in particular because it's just so notably done. Overall, on a technical scale, the video was fabulous, and I couldn't be happier to find such a wonderful video to showcase today. With all that in mind, I do, however, have an additional anime to add to the list of how not to bring back characters. Fairy Tail. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm using this as a jumping off point. Don't blame me, blame Masked Man. Now, to be fair to Fairy Tail, the show isn't as serious as other shonen with all the comedic and sexual tangents laid throughout. Nor am I talking about those times when the fake out was so obviously coded, we see the twist coming a mile away, like in the early seasons. It was still annoying, but those were harmless. But I swear to the great almighty Christ above that this show pulls the dramatic speech into cool character moment into great sacrifice so many times, only for the show to later be like, surprise, they didn't die after all. In later arcs, it got so bad that by the next chapter, all that buildup was simply undone, and it drove me insane. Look, I forgave a lot about the series over the years, but out of all of them, the fake out goodbyes were the straw that broke the dragon's back. Okay, so I have to preface this next section by saying there were 2.5 videos talking about Dungeon Meshi. They were both so good, I was going to put a tie here, comparing and contrasting how two creators can approach the same topic, but, Mother Nature, yeah. So for the sake of time, I'm going to talk about one, mention the other, and the non-talked about one will be thrown in Sizzle Reel, along with everything else I couldn't get to this time. We Gucci? We Gucci. So congratulations, Miggs and Stardust262, for breaking my established rule of talking about the same anime in the same digests. I will be talking about Miggs' video now because that one made puns, and I'm a sucker for the really bad dad humor. Anyway, Miggs Delicious in Dungeon, a renaissance in fantasy anime, is a fun conversation about how this anime and others like it are bringing back the sauce that makes traditional fantasy stories appealing to watch. It's no secret that at least in the West, we've been in a traditional fantasy drought, only having a few examples here and there to wet our whistles. And a point brought up in Tracking Shots video, spoiler for the Sizzle Reel, is that most traditional fantasy is now headed by shoujo and josei. You know, the demographics that jump-started isekai and always gets overlooked by big publishers in the West because they don't make One Piece money? But seriously, I think Miggs does an entertaining job using Dungeon Meshi as a backboard to showcase the strengths fantasy has and what we've been missing from isekai. Don't get me wrong, the power fantasies, game mechanics, and waifus of varying quality are appealing in their own right. But the Jenga tower has gotten too large, and sooner rather than later, we all have toppled over in an overindulgence of isekai's musings that I wouldn't be wrong in saying it's getting stale. There's only so many times you can change the gimmick in the isekai toolkit to refresh the plot if you aren't a big hitter anime with an established audience already. When Miggs goes over how each party member clicks together with their own offerings, I'm reminded how simple character interactions and world building can color a story to a longer lasting degree than any of us want to admit. Also, I should say, Miggs is funny. Really funny. His sense of humor and both his words and editing never got old and was fun throughout. By the way, I see you using the Genshin Impact soundtrack. Oh my gosh, how peachy keen. Don't think my weeb is so old not to notice. It's surprising the game's OST has become a perfect BGM for a lot of types of videos out there. Other than that, I enjoyed Miggs' perspective overall, and you should go check them out. What do you mean this has only so many views? I think we should all remedy that, cause that's a fucking crime. And tell him the Anime Misfit sent ya. Hazie. Yes, I'm talking to you directly, Hazie. Me and you gotta talk about your content. Keeping it 100, you probably have some of the most eloquent and unique content in Anitube in terms of touching them feels. You tend to talk about sadder topics with such grace that I can't help but commend you for it. I really do. No one else is doing it like you do. In fact, I would have highlighted you in earlier episodes if it wasn't for your content's double-edged sword. That being, I have to be in the right mindset to watch your type of content. Personally, a big factor into what makes me want to talk about a video for Digest is my vibes. And if I'm in a mood for something introspective that day, or something sillier, I will gravitate towards where the wind blows, per se. I am human after all. Ergo, Hazie, I don't know how you've done it until now, but your hard hitters just came when my mindset was honestly in the toilet. and I don't think my emotions could have handled the subject of your videos. Until now, since I was in a much better mood and I saw you post it this week. So here is my long overdue Hazie shilling segment. Hazie's, the anime that shows you the truth about depression, may need no introduction, but I will do my best to describe the creator's formula of discussion. In layman's terms, Hazie's will take an anime that's plot touches a heavier topic, in this case, the anime Orange and the struggle surrounding depression, then conveys with warmth why it's okay to feel how you feel and to seek help where you need it. I know that description does not do justice, but I'm telling you, Hazie's videos are clearly crafted in a way where they can touch a certain person at that moment. I want to emphasize that Hazie does this while using the anime as a guide to help the viewer understand their points, which sounds easy on paper, but it's a slippery slope on finding that right balance. I do tend to see other creators talk about heavier topics, but the more common tactic I have seen is to talk about the heavier topic in separation from the anime being seen, only using the anime as like a visual backdrop, which is a perfectly okay method of trying to share your feelings. But I feel for Anitube, where some people use the medium to escape from the drums of day-to-day, highlighting the lessons found in anime is both clever and thought-provoking with the right amount of media literacy. But there's the monkey's paw in it all. As I said earlier, Hazie's content is not for everyone, as I feel it's best suited for those who either want relatable anime to help explore their own circumstances, or need a careful voice to listen to about things they struggle with. Even if their disclaimer reads, and this is pretty important to note, that Hazie is not a mental health professional, and the advice shared in their video is based on their personal experience and general knowledge. All in all, I like this creator a lot, and think what they bring to the table is very special. Whatever they have in store for the future, I wish them the best of best.
Welcome back. You caught me in a little bit of a nap here. Is it Sizzle Reel time? Oh, look, it's Sizzle Reel time. Give me a moment while I have some time to wake up. Okay, here's the deal, guys. Today's Sizzle Reel is how you would say overstuffed with so many entries, and I'm sorry. Because of backups, prior life engagements, and mostly
Mother Nature.
I didn't have time to write about all the videos I wanted for the past 2 weeks, and this needs to go out ASAP, so enjoy a longer than usual edition of the Sizzle Reel.
Stop it. Get some help.
I kept bouncing this entry around so many times at first because I didn't know where to put it. But what tipped me over the edge of making this video of the week was that it has so little views. Are ya fucking with me? The NMA Guru Zon 100 taught me the meaning of life may not have the flashiest editing out there, but it was masterful in where it counts. It's thought-provoking, funny, has a great understanding of the anime on display, and even puts a heap of the creator's own heart into the mix. I adore Guru's heartfelt conversation and how he was personally feeling about his life in relation to the meaning of life. It really helped me stay gripped on the runtime all the way to the end. The dialogue felt passionate, warm even, and I could feel he took his time with the script writing. I appreciated the adorable reenactments of episode 7, and it felt nostalgic upon watching the roleplay, which also ties to the themes of the video. I also feel like I am fearfully running in circles trying to make sense of my life choices career-wise. I put so much of myself through the ringer that I have to get the video out by this date, that I have to make content this way, or I'm not going to grow and ultimately let everyone I love down. When in actuality, I could be like Guru here, just making content with my friends without a care in the world. Guru was masterful in explaining Zon 100's philosophy on how society pushes itself towards a sense of zombification, and I don't know if I attest this to his great sense of media literacy or just how well he elaborates on his points. I think that at the end of the day, Guru's video is that perfect storm of attributes that make his content enjoyable. While it can be just as efficient to lean into being super silly or professional in Anitube, I feel it's special when you can balance both sides of the content creation vibe check. I left the video feeling more empowered than I thought I would be, so it's a good sign for something. But yeah, go watch this video. Please, it's so good and thoughtful. It's good for the soul, good for the eyes, and great for that longing desire to see 2006 Anitube skits again.
It's really time to go, huh? This world is really relaxing, man. I'm so glad that it exists. But that's not relevant right now, as we do have to thank some people. First of all, a big thank you to everyone who's made videos so far. All their videos and info will be in the description below to check them out. Of course, we also have to thank AnitubeList.com for making and curating this site to be as easy as possible to look stuff up. I really enjoy them. And finally, a thanks to you guys for watching and commenting. All the nice comments have been a great motivator to keep doing this series, so I appreciate it. If you like the video, like it. Even subscribe to the channel if you feel so inclined. I promise I do more than just Anitube Digest. It just did those take more time. But I think I've said enough. I feel like I really want to go to bed. This world has done something to me. I just it's done its job. Lazy River. All right. Good job. But anyway, see you next time, guys.